Good morning, Mrs. Simcha. Lamnatzeh Mishmah David, chapter 20. Yom Chad, the night being Tzar, Hashem should answer you on the day of your troubles. Yisrael Hashem, Elohei Yankev, the name of God of Jacob should support you. Yishach Ezoham Mekaidesh, he should send help from his holy chamber, his holy place where he is. Umitzion Yisadeka, and from the Jerusalem, support you. Yizkar kol mechaisecha. He should recall all your offerings, your devotions, your sacrifices. Eilasacha yedashnasela. They should be received graciously. And he should grant your heart's requests. And fulfill all your enable you to fulfill all your good resolutions. Let us rejoice in your salvation. And we'll raise the banner of Hashem high. Hashem should fulfill all your heart's requests. Now I know, says King David, that Hashem saves his people, his anointed ones. Ki Shia Adonai Mashiach Yanehu Mishmei Kodshe, answering them from his holy heavens, Biguvures, with might, Yesha Yamin V'Yamine, salvation from his right hand, Elev Rechav Elev Asusim. Our enemies come with chariots and cavalry and their modern equivalents. V'anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Nazkir, and we come with the name of God on our lips. We also have cavalry and tanks. Hema Korov and Afalo, they fell to not get up. When they say that, we arose and we're standing stalwart. Adonai Hashem El Chanin Karenu. Hashem is our King. He should answer us on the day that we call. Chapter 3, Tanya. Seichel and Midas. Seichel is intellect. Midas are the 7 drivers in your heart that define your character, that show the world what your character is. So we learned yesterday that Chachma is, like he says here, a seminal point. On page 69, a seminal point. And when you take that point and you try to describe its qualities, what is it of, what makes it what it is, that is the function, the analytical function called Bina in the left side of the brain. Page 70 at the bottom. When you think about this concept that was conceived in your seichel, concept is a seichel, the quality of seichel in your brain is considering this idea, this muskal, and with Bina, you're trying to understand what it all means. So when you understand the details, mitech eze dvar hachma, that you have the idea, the chachma you said yesterday is the potential of something to be what it is. When we take that potential, we try to understand exactly what it is, hamuskal b'sichle, as it's been conceived in your seichel, it's been conceived in your mind. Bottom of page 70, nikra bina, that's called bina. Got it? 71, page 71. And these two, Chachma and Bina, are called in Kabbalah father and mother. And they give rise, fathers and mothers have children. What are the children? Avas Hashem, page 71, love of Hashem. Virose, when you perceive in your mind the greatness of Hashem, That's why every morning we have to look up into the heavens to see the greatness of Hashem arching over us. And when we perceive this greatness, we just say, wow, yes, how wonderful that we can be connected with such a great, majestic, wonderful God. One time there was a Farbrengen on the 10th day of Shvat, coming up in a couple of months, the yard site of the previous Rebbe, and at the same time the coronation of our Rebbe. And there was a big Farbrengen. 770 was jam-packed with people, thousands of people, dignitaries, politicians, personalities, shluchim, community supporters, students. It was really something. Rabbis from all over the world came with their gifts to the Rebbe. What's a gift that you give a Rebbe? The keys to the city, the keys to the institution that you've managed to build. Say, Rebbe, this is for you. And a friend of mine, a rabbi from England, who had been my teacher, came, showed up, flew in, and it was jammed. He couldn't get in anywhere. So I pushed back a little bit the people behind me, and I said, here, come in front of me. So he came in, and then the Rebbe came in. And the Rebbe came in the midst of all this glory and took his seat, the plush red chair that he would sit in when he would teach. And this friend of mine just exclaimed and said, no doubt about it, he said, we have a gorgeous Mashiach. It was very majestic. And the same kind of feeling applies when we behold the majesty of Hashem, when it's filled with a sense of love and gratitude to be part of this world. And now he gives us an exercise in thinking and meditation, page 71. Ki haseichel, why is it? How do we get this love and fear in our heart? It's a natural byproduct of meditating on the greatness of Hashem. And you'll find this in Tanya, this phrase referred to over and over again, to meditate on the greatness and the majesty of Hashem. Remember, we have this intellectual soul, which is called the Seichel HaMaskelis, a third level of the soul. We have the animal soul and the godly soul. Both the animal soul and the godly soul use this intellectual soul, they function with it. So when a person will meditate with his intellectual soul, it calls it here in English the rational soul right here, he's going to meditate, he's going to think of all the things he can think about the greatness of Hashem. And when you study anything in nature, that's what it leads to. You see how amazing the whole creation is. The life cycle of every creature, from great to small, even a gnat, mosquito, a mouse, the mole, the blind mole that makes its way through the world underground, never needs to seek because it can manage without it. Unbelievable. Every creature is gifted with the ability to survive and to reproduce, often in very complex ways. It's awesome. And when you think about all the things that are being given life by Hashem, how he fills the whole world with life. Every single thing in the world is maintained and given its life from Hashem. And not just in this physical world, because this physical world also has a source, on a higher spiritual level. And here it says on page 71 that all the levels of, we'll call them worlds, every level is filled with the life of Hashem. On higher levels, the worlds are more spiritual, but they are the source of the world that we know as physical. And that's called Mamale Kol Almin. You want to write that down? Mamale Kol Almin. What does that mean? Mamale means to fill. A thing is full, it's mole. So the world is filled with the life of Hashem. And this level of creation is called Memale Kol Almin. The word kol means all. Almin means worlds. The word olam means world, olam. And almin is plural. So this is a level of godliness that fills all the worlds with life, and it's an exercise to sit down and think of all the things that you know and all the things that you've experienced and all the things that you've found out about and how Hashem gives life to all of them. And like we read in the story of creation, with the oceans teeming with life, it says in the Talmud that everything in the world has a counterpart in the ocean. And there are a lot of things in the ocean that don't have a counterpart in the physical world, in the world that we experience on the land. You have sea cows, sea cats, sea dogs, sea horses, everything. So this is Mamale Kol Almin, that he fills all the worlds with life. That's our step one, meditation, level one, is to think about how Hashem fills all the worlds with life. And when your mind is filled with that, whatever you know, the mountains, the rivers, the oceans, the deserts, the weather, everything. Everything is being given its life by Hashem. The way your body works. Who could design such a thing? And it keeps on working. 70, 80 years. Go to buy a car. How long will it last? 5 years? 7 years? 70, 80 years? Oh, come on. We need get a new car. All right. So this is Mamale Kol Almin. And then when we finish realizing that everything in the world is being given its life by God, then we have to go to a higher level. The fact that Hashem fills the whole world with life, that's still not Hashem. Hashem is much, much more than that. Much more than that. And that's called, you see, if I have a vessel here, here's the vessel, and I can fill it with water. I can fill it completely with water. So it's full of water. So I have Water in the vessel. That's like life within everything. The life within it, of course, is shaped to be exactly fit. Like a pair of gloves has to have 5 fingers. You don't want a pair of gloves with 2 fingers, 3 fingers. They're called mittens. Yeah. 6 fingers, you don't want a pair of gloves with extra fingers. But what creates the vessel? Has to be something higher to create the vessel that holds the life. And when we say higher, it means a level of life that cannot be contained, beyond vessels, beyond containment. We have an example of it. I left it downstairs. We all have and use and take it for granted a level of life that doesn't recognize the boundaries of life. Transcendence, beyond. And you have an example of this, every one of you here, and that's your cell phone. Press a few buttons, you can talk to France, Spain, China, Israel. What about the walls? There's no walls. This is tapping into a level of life that doesn't recognize that there are walls. Well, if you go down in the subway, you're going to recognize. You're not going to have, what do they say, reception. It's not going to work. But it gives you an idea that there is such a thing as a level of life that does not recognize any limitations. And we speak about Hashem, we speak about Ein Sof. What does Ein Sof mean? Ein Sof means no limits. So we need to go now from Mamalik Olam, he fills all worlds are limits. Whatever the limit is, he fills it with life. But what about a level that there's no limits, that the life is pervasive? It doesn't recognize any limits. That's called Soved. Soved means surrounding.
Is this the second level of meditation? Is
surrounding all worlds. Soved kol almi. Surrounding all worlds. A level of life that doesn't recognize world. There is no world. So I remember when I first came here, I asked one of the young men, one of the students, what is this all about? And he said to me like this, put it very simply. He said, each of these levels has a message. The message of Mamalik Olam is that Hashem fills the worlds with life. The message of Soved Kol Almin is there is no world. There's only Hashem. So think back how we started off this course with the whiteboard. There was no, we said this whiteboard stands for before creation. There's only whiteboard. Read, there's only Hashem. And to create a world, Hashem has to hide, has to create some place in the whiteboard where he can make a world. So in that place where he's going to create a place where the world can be, but he is everywhere. There's no place. So he's going to have to hide. He's going to have to create a darkness. If the whiteboard stands for the light of Hashem, which is pervasive everywhere, where's the world going to go? So he has to create a place where there is no light. And the darkness is upon the face of the deep. And into the darkness he shines a light and says, let there be light. And there was light. The Kabbalah talks about this. So the Soivu Kol Almin is a higher level of godliness that doesn't recognize any limits at all. So first of all, we think about how Hashem fills all the worlds with life. And then we take it to the next step to realize that there's a much greater level than that, which gives life. Where does Malik get its life from? From Soive. Soive means surrounding, but doesn't mean surrounding from the outside. Outside is a limit. There's no outside, there's no inside. There's just life. That's called Soive Kol Almin, a surrounding and all-encompassing level of life. Much higher order. Now, there's a common denominator between these two levels. What's the common denominator? Where's my markers? The common denominator is Mamali Kol Almin, Soiv Kol Almin. The common denominator is Kol Almin. In both levels, we have Almin. What is Almin? Almin means worlds. Now, the word for world is olam. We just finished saying that in order for the world to exist, Hashem has to hide. So that the inner factor of creation is hiding. The word olam means world. It also means connected with the word helem. A helem means a hiding. So to create the world, Hashem has to hide. So the whole concept of creation means a hiding. And our job when we do mitzvahs is to recognize and relate to and make apparent the inner spark and the inner life, inner spark of life in everything, and to connect that inner spark that's hidden in the world with its source in Hashem. Does that make sense? That there's a spark of life hidden in everything. When you do a mitzvah, you say a bracha, you are acknowledging in words that there's life in this thing, and so you say a blessing. Blessed are you, Hashem, King of the world, who creates this cup of coffee, this soda, this meal. And that, so to speak, releases the spark and unites it, and it becomes obvious to anybody who sees you that you have now created, like staked a claim for king and country. Our king is Hashem, and we're staking a claim. This belongs to Hashem. And I'm going to benefit from it. I'm going to get energy from it. I'm going to earn money. I'm going to use that money to do good for other people. I'm going to make this world into a place where Hashem is obvious, where it appears clear that this is Hashem's world. And I'm going to do that the way I behave. I'm going to behave with Avos Yisroel. I'm going to behave with kindness to other people because Hashem is kind. So I want to behave like Hashem, and I become his emissary, his shliach in this world. Fine. So we have two levels of life. Mamali Kol Almin, and Soyim, much higher level, Soyim Kol Almin. Mamali Kol Almin is the life within every single detail, and Soyim Kol Almin is beyond details. But they have a common denominator. They're like two sides of the same coin. And the coin is called the world. So Hashem fills the world with life, and Hashem is beyond that level of life. That's Soyu Kalami. But they're both connected with the concept that there's an Almi. What about when we just had the whiteboard and there was no Almi? So that's a third level. That's even higher. You with me? Simcha? You there? I think she went to do the dishes. She was listening in and she was working. Okay. And when you think of these three levels, the Alter Rebbe says something extraordinary here. He says, when you are going to think about these three levels and meditate on them, take a few minutes. That's why we start off the day looking up as we come to class to start the process off, right? When one contemplates God's greatness, bottom of page 71, how in his presence, the whole of creation is like just a whiteboard. It's nothing. It's not even there. You didn't make a dot yet. Didn't make one mark. There's no hiding even took place yet. Then a person is filled, noilada, there will be born in his brain and in his feelings, midas, yiras, haremaimes, a feeling of awe before the greatness, exaltedness of Hashem. B'moiche, in your mind, you're going to be aware of this. Umachshavtoi, and it's going to be in your thoughts. That's where it comes from. Li'ira, page 72. Li'ira olis boishish, to fear, to have a sense of awe before Hashem, and to be embarrassed. Who am I? What am I? You know, like a country bumpkin wins the local raffle in the tavern where he lives. He gets a ticket to go to see the king. And he comes into the big city, the royal city, and he has a ticket. He can go to the royal palace, to Buckingham Palace, and he can come before the king. He's very embarrassed. He doesn't feel like he even belongs there, but he does belong there. He won. He has a ticket. He can get in, but he's very embarrassed. So that's what it says here. He feels very humble. And a sense of awe is born in his mind before the exaltedness and the greatness of the king. What does it say later in the Tanya? It says when a person will think that Hashem is filling the whole world with life, and he's looking into your heart to see if you're sincere or not in what you're doing. Are you just going through the motions? Are you doing it because somebody told you have to do it? Or are you doing it with love and desire to serve the king? Then a person will be filled with a sense of smallness and awe standing before his king when you go to say a bracha, when you go to daven, when you go to do a mitzvah. In the middle of page 72, there will be a dread of Hashem in his heart, like the king calls this country bumpkin over to him and says, "What's your name?" Maybe he can't even say his name. He's so overawed to be in the presence of the king. So the king says, "You know what? Bring me a drink of water. Go over there, ask one of these guards to give you a glass and fill it with water. Bring me that drink." And he brings a drink to the king. So the king smiles and says, "Thank you." And he goes home. And he goes back to his friends in the tavern. And they say, "What was it like in the palace?" So, "Oh, it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. All these princes and rich people and powerful people. And I was there amongst them. And the king asked me to bring him a drink of water. And he said, 'Thank you.'" He has an identity now. The king gave him something to do. They relate to each other. They have a connection because the king gave him something to do. And he does it. He's afraid he's going to spill the water. He's so nervous. The king smiles. Veshuv, and then the next step is, after this feeling of awe before the greatness of Hashem, then comes, when he comes back to them, oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I brought the king water, and he said, thank you. And everybody's jealous. He has such a love for the king. See, that's how it goes. First comes this awe, and then comes love. Not the other way around. And that applies to marriage too. That love in marriage comes after respect. Tremendous respect. You don't take liberties with someone that you love. You don't make fun of them. You don't deride them. You go out of your way to be useful and helpful and respectful, and not to push your own ideas onto the one you're living with, because then they just feel crushed and it doesn't work out. It doesn't work. Can't be overbearing. Love can be overbearing. So therefore, there has to be, before love, there has to be respect, fear, not to mess up, not to make a mess of things. Don't let your ego get carried away. That's fear. So you have to have fear, and then you can have love. Thank you. How many scenarios the husband goes through? I didn't mean it. I really didn't mean it. Please. Forgive me.
You, Rabbi. Baruch Hashem.